Hey guys, my name is Max Convexity. Welcome back to my channel. My little dog's name is Jax. He's running around right here. He loves to get in the camera, get in the shot right when I start a video. Anyway, today I wanted to revisit two of my old videos that I thought were actually my two best videos. But, you know, I've been picking up a lot of new subscribers lately, and I have new people watching and commenting, so I thought it'd be a good time to go back and cover some of this stuff again. I'm also going to mix in a little story time with it. Retire on Dividends gave me the suggestion of making a video that's, you know, and tell who you are, you know, where you came from and why I'm the way I am. So, and I thought that was a good suggestion. So I'll go into that. I'm going to go into my background a little bit more than I normally do. That's where the story time comes in. All right. Yeah, so I want to revisit the echo chambers and confirmation bias video, but also the rule of thumb about having to reinvest 2/3 of the dividend back into the fund so you don't get NAV erosion. Then I also want to look at the volatility compression video. I did that probably a month and a half ago, and I didn't realize it would happen this fast, but we're getting hella volatility compression. So I think it's a timely time to do this video. Okay, Jackson, what's going on, buddy? What is going on? All right, I better see what he wants, and then I'll finish this video in a second. It's going to be a good one, guys, so stick around, and we'll get right into the middle of it. Thank you. I wanted to start off with an apology. A few days ago in my video that I made, which I thought was a really good video, it's probably my third best video I've ever made, behind echo chambers and confirmation biases and behind my video on the volatility compression. It's a legit video, but I was talking about portfolio allocation, and I said if you have more than 20% of your portfolio in these funds, you're doing it wrong. And that's kind of a brash statement and a stupid thing to say. Who am I to say who's doing it wrong? Yeah, I really wasn't trying to offend anyone. After I said that, and I don't think I did. I think the people that I may have offended realized that I wasn't trying to. So I think it's all right. But I just wanted to emphasize that, that wasn't cool to say. The part about you're doing it wrong, I'm not here to tell anyone, if they're doing it wrong or right. I should say, in my opinion, more. And that is, in that video, I did say contact your own, financial planner about 10 times. So I tried to cover all the bases. But I realized after I said that, there's a bunch of people that are likely my friends on here and other creators and people I talk to in Discord. And I bet you a lot of them have more than 20%. And I certainly wasn't trying to offend them. And I shouldn't have said it that way. Yeah, everyone has different goals and everyone has different situations in life. My thoughts and my life experiences my thoughts are informed by my life experiences. My life experiences may be different than yours, probably are different than yours. So I just need to recognize that more. A lot of people probably have 100% of their portfolio in these funds, and I bet a lot of people have 100% plus they're on margin. So that has the effect of making it 150% of their net worth. I mean, and I'm not trying to throw shade at those people. I love all my subscribers and all these other creators. So I'm certainly not trying to throw shade. Informed by my own personal experiences, I had a bad experience with margin before. When you have margin, and it's not like there's no such thing as using margin smart, and I know a lot of you guys use it smart, but I'm just telling you my experience. It cost me about $3.5 million once, in opportunity cost, not in direct cost, but an opportunity loss. Because for me, I was selling covered calls, and like I always tell you, when you sell options, you win 2 times out of 3 on average, and the odds are in your favor, blah, blah, blah. They're a great thing to do. Well, still doesn't mean, that it doesn't mean that you will win every time. And it also depends on how you manage your money and other things. So when you're using margin, or when I'm using margin, I was making decisions based on my margin balance more so than just purely the option trade itself. I was deciding when to roll my options out based on how close I was getting to the margin call. So, like I say, I made some inopportune decisions, and I rolled some stuff out and that I probably shouldn't have. And anyway, but it basically ended up, it was a chain of events, but it ended up costing me all the stock I had in a company. And that stock today, if I still had it, it's worth about $3.5 million. So, anyway, my gosh, I love Austin so much, but I can't even afford a house here because it's not just the margin decision. I've made one or two other bad decisions along the way that I wish I could take back, but I can't. It's fine. But that $3.5 million would come in real handy right now. That's about what houses cost in Austin. They don't cost quite that much, but for one that I would want to live in is at least $1.5 million. I mean, and that's just for a normal, 3-bedroom ranch style house up here on Mesa Drive. When I do my morning walks and I videotape myself, you'll see the houses behind me. I'm usually on Mesa or Sierra, and I just love those streets and everything. Those houses up there, you have to have $1 million, $1.5 million to even think about moving up there. So anyway, who knows? But it's, so I had a bad experience with margin. Well, but like I say, I know a lot of you guys are doing it right and using small balances, and it is smart to, and at least you're getting income. These Defiance and Yield Max funds, if I had to use margin, if someone stuck a gun to my head and made me use margin, I would put it in the Defiance and Yield Max funds. And the other ones, JP Morgan. You have a higher chance of success, but it's the same thing. At some point, if you're looking at your margin balance and trading your margin balance instead of just trading the market in your options, you can end up getting in a bind. All right, so but that goes to another thing. I could make my site super clickbaity. I could look at other creators that have more subscribers. And I'm not talking about any of my friends. I'm not talking about Retire or Rob Stuff or Mike at the Tactical Stock Scalper or Panda. I'm not talking about any of those people, but I'm talking about other subscribers that have, I'm not even talking about Ethan. Ethan's a great guy. I'm talking about other subscribers that have a lot more than that, and in my opinion, are going about it the wrong way. And that's just my opinion based on my experiences, which I'm going to tell you about in a second. I wanted, I'm trying to make my site have a recipe for long-term success. And I believe that's the same way that Retire and Ethan and Rob Stuff and Mike and Panda, they're all doing it the right way too. But I'm trying to go for a long-term lasting success. What I do like about all those other creators I just mentioned, they bring their own life experiences into it. So when you watch their channel, you get their life experiences on it. Ethan has a lot of knowledge about real estate and about crypto. Retire has a lot of knowledge about accounting and about a lot of stuff, and he's really good at dissecting those prospectuses. Same thing with Panda. Panda actually has a MBA. Panda's a smart dude. He's way overqualified to have a YouTube channel, but he's a smart dude, and we all are. Mike, Tactical Stock Scalper, same thing. He's been very successful in business. So we all bring our own perspective to it. So I wanted to talk a little bit today about why my perspective is what it is and how I got this way. Mainly, why am I so conservative? Why am I stuck on this 20% number? I mean, what is the deal? Why am I like the way I am? And of course, I think modesty is a great quality, of course, in your professional life, but especially in your personal life. So that brings me to my dad. It's my dad's fault that I am the way I am. We can blame it on him and my mom. They're both very modest people, and I'd heard my dad's essentially in the same business I'm in right now, running a YouTube channel. You're basically giving advice all day. With a YouTube channel, you have to put a disclosure on there that it's not legally binding and it's not, that you aren't liable for it. My dad was actually a professional, and he didn't ever have to disclose that, his advice was legally binding and he was legally able to give advice. And he was a CPA. I say was a CPA because he's retired. But he is a CPA. And also later in life, he was also a financial planner, but he wasn't really slinging options for his clients or anything. He did that in his own account. He was more using the financial planning to be able to sell people annuities and different types of investments, mutual funds, and all the partners in his firm went and got their financial planner's license, or their Series 7 actually, and their insurance license, so they could monetize that source of income. So he has a lot of experience in everything, but his main experience is in tax planning. So the whole time growing up, I would, it'd be the weekend, and he's like me, or like I try to be. He's real accessible. So he would take, the phone would ring on the weekend, and he'd go answer it, and he'd be on the phone for a half hour sometimes talking to somebody that was having some type of problem, a friend, or, was having a financial problem. And I would always only hear one side of the conversation. But lots of times, inevitably, when it was with tax planning, a lot of people were trying to get him to a lot of people had all these complex tax avoidance schemes, and he wasn't into that. He wasn't hearing any part of it, and he never chased that kind of business. He didn't want that kind of business. If somebody's trying to put the business in their stepson's name and then move to frickin' Bermuda or something and try to get all these complex schemes, he just would always say, well, you can't even tell me that. I don't even want to hear that. He would help people avoid taxes every legal way possible, but he didn't go for the complex illegal things. And I consider that I could have made my site super clickbaity, or I could look at other subscribers and that are doing something, and I could get in their comments and see what their people want and try to cater it specifically. I could cater my coverage to whatever my customers want, but I want to grow organically, and I have to be honest with my own feelings. Let's see what this next slide says. Okay, so I was on somebody else's. I forget whose Discord this was, but I was answering a question, and I thought I did a nice job on this question, so I thought I would repaste it up here. But I want to go relook at or look back at the 2/3 number. I made the 2/3 number that you're supposed to, or that you should, reinvest 2/3 of your dividend back in the funds to prevent any kind of NAV erosion. So then I was in the middle of a conversation in Discord, and people were talking about, well, I have to put 2/3 of my money back in, but then I'm also dollar cost averaging. Well, I said, no, dollar cost averaging is, in essence, putting 2/3 of your money back in. The dollar cost average goes towards the 2/3 of your money. But so buying shares on the dip, that counts towards the 2/3. I said also the 2/3 number is based on a study from 2006 to 2016. Those years were very bad for the market. So the number 2/3 is probably overly conservative. It all depends on the market. If the market goes up and doesn't have any major swings in both directions, 2/3 is probably too much. In fact, if the market behaves, an investor might get away with reinvesting little to nothing. It doesn't have to be 2/3 exactly on the dates you get paid. I did say in that video, but you should be prepared to invest 2/3, maybe in dips and stuff. But yeah, it doesn't have to be systematic. It can be, it's up to you. Talk to your planner. I think it's a reasonable plan to buy dips. So maybe buy, down weeks or something. And, and the money you spend there, will come out of that 2/3. The 2/3 isn't a hard rule of thumb. In 2009, 8 and 9, the entire financial system came within a few days of imploding. The whole world's economy almost imploded. If that doesn't happen again, you might be fine reinvesting 1/3 or reinvesting nothing. No one can predict the future, certainly not me. The study just tells you how you would have done in those 10 years reinvesting the 2/3. We also had a flash crash or two during that time period. Someone asked me in the comments once what a flash crash was. I don't know the official definition, but to me, a flash crash is when the market goes down sharply, like 5, 6, 7, 8%, you know, and then comes back within a few days later. We had that in like 2012, I think. I forget the cause of it. And then we also had that in the beginning of 2018. February 1st, I think, of 2018, we had a VIX explosion where a bunch of some inverse VIX ETNs blew up. I wasn't really watching the market yet then. I hadn't got back into it heavy until about 2020, like a lot of us, I think. But you know, that's what I'm talking about on a flash crash, because in 2018, within a month or two, it was back, you know, the market was back going fine again. It just means a crash that's not really a crash, but it can cause margin calls and it can hurt like a crash. So I'm not discounting it either. But anyway, a bunch of that kind of stuff happened in this 10-year period. Also, 2006 was the housing crisis. That wasn't a great year for the market. 2007 was an all right year, but dead cat bounce basically, but it was an all right year. Then 2008 and 2009 were terrible, you know. And then there was a Greek banking crisis or something in 2012, and a flash crash or two. It was a crazy time. But the good thing about looking at that kind of time period is the number that comes out of that study is going to be overly conservative. I'm overly conservative also. I told you about the way my dad ran his business. He ran it from an overly conservative standpoint too. He also ran his personal life from an overly conservative standpoint too. I used to say, Dad, why don't we have so-and-so's dad just bought a new 500 series Mercedes. You know, and he would look at me and he'd say, well, yeah, but the bank probably owns that car. That's what you don't understand. We had a Mercedes too, but it was like 6 years old. It was ugly. My dad got a good deal on it. It was paid for. I'll put a picture of it here. It was a two-tone red and white. And it wasn't the 500 series. It was a 300 series. My point is, you can have nice stuff and still make good decisions. And that's what I learned from Papa Convexity. You know, he's retired and he lives in California now. He lives at the beach. He wears shorts every day, just like I do here in Austin. To me, that's the sign that you've made it in life, is if you wear shorts every day. But I don't know. But, you know, a string of good decisions can lead, even though you have some delayed gratification for sure, and you have to work hard, it can lead to good stuff down the road. And I firmly believe in that. And so my channel, that's kind of the theme of my channel. And that's why I am the way I am. But anyway, back to the 2/3. I said no one can predict the future. This just shows you in those 10 years how you would have done reinvesting the 2/3. And in those 10 years, which were terrible, you reinvested the 10/3, you got zero NAV depreciation. And a lot of people are very concerned about NAV depreciation. So I wanted to quantify a number that you could do where you would have, you know, very little chance of getting any NAV depreciation. Okay. So then I mentioned, but some funds reinvest for you before they pay the dividend. So on those funds, and I'm looking at JP Morgan and Global X, and there's some other ones too, but those are the main ones. The 2/3 number is probably way high. If you have JP Morgan or Global X, you might need to invest 1/3, you know, or maybe not even that. I mean, you know, I was speaking more of the Defiance funds, because that's kind of what I'm, you know, always speak about when I was mentioning the 2/3 number, because they give you the entire yield as a dividend. They trust you to make good decisions and to do what's best with it, but it's still up to you. So some people are taking the dividend, I have a feeling, and paying down credit card bills, and that's good also. Sure, you might get a little NAV erosion, but they don't have credit card bills anymore. And so, you know, that's fine. Let's say you don't put the 2/3 anymore, but you don't put the 2/3 in, but you pay debt down. Well, still a good decision. Yeah, you might have some NAV depreciation, but you also don't have credit cards. So then the next time you get paid, you can put more of your, money from your job into it. You just want to, you know, create a string of good decisions, in my opinion. But then I said, it's all about making good choices, but it would not be advisable probably to take the dividend and buy a speedboat. And I don't have anything against speedboats, but I actually heard somebody say that on a podcast. It was on the Jay Pestruccelli podcast. They were talking about that. But my point is, don't try not to use your dividends to buy a depreciating asset. I mean, that would, that's the idea. But credit cards will depreciate your own net worth. So if you take your 2/3 money and use it to pay down credit cards, or that's great. I was just trying to help people out with the rule of thumb, but the 2/3 is only a rule of thumb. I hope it helps people that are worried about NAV decaying, because it should eliminate that as a worry. But like I mentioned to this person, I said others may be more worried about their credit card bills at 18% interest than NAV depreciation. That's a legit concern also. All right, so I also wanted to revisit my video about volatility compression. Okay. The volatility, we've been getting volatility compression now. Something that I see all the time, I saw it on someone's Discord last night. Somebody said, they cut the dividends 30%. The dividends they always talk about they're cutting the dividends. Well, no one cuts the dividends. These funds, and I'm talking about JP Morgan too, these funds right here, they pay the dividend that the market allows them to give. Hey y'all, I'm editing this video now. And it occurred to me we should go back about a month and a half to my video about volatility compression and see what I said back then. The internet never forgets. The name of that video was called Covered Calls Are Trash in a Bull Market. And I'm going to insert a snippet of that, and then we'll rejoin our current video. Thanks, guys. It's built into the price. All right, so now let's talk about VIX. VIX is the 30-day expected volatility, or the forward expected volatility of the S&P. And a lot of these funds, like the XYLD and the JEPY and the JEPI, they trade the S&P. So VIX is a good thing to look at as a proxy for how much premium a covered call strategy or a short put strategy could be bringing in. So we're going to go back and look at history of volatility. So these are weekly bar charts. And the line is right at about 1250 or so. I guess this is 1235. But my point is, the line is whenever the VIX gets under that line, you can't see. Hang on here. We're going to look at a live chart of VIX. All right. So I did here. Here's a weekly chart of VIX, and it's overlaid with interest rates. So you can see as interest rates go up, it makes volatility go up, is what I was trying to illustrate. This spike in interest rates, or in VIX right here, was March 2020, the COVID deal. So that was that. What I wanted to direct your attention to, and what I was talking about the other night, I was talking about runaway bull markets. In a runaway bull market, a couple of characteristics are low interest rates. But another characteristic is low volatility, and the low interest rates cause the low volatility. But you can see whenever you get extended periods of time where it's under this green line, it happened. It happened a bunch from like 16, 17, and even into 18, and in the first part of 18, and it went up. VIX went up a little bit, but then even in the middle part of 18, we got some super low readings. That's called when VIX is compressed, or volatility is compressed. Well, guess what? Whenever that happens, covered call strategies and short put strategies, they pay poorly. They don't pay that much. The good news is the asset that you're tracking is going up, so you don't have to worry about as much about the situation that we've had in Tesla lately, where the underlying pulls way back and it causes the yield fund to pull way back too. So you don't have that worry, but you have a different worry. You have the worry of, hey, my high yield fund isn't paying as much as it used to. I made the bold claim that in the future I could see QQQY and JEPY paying half of what they do now, 25, 30%, 20% even, instead of these 60s and 70s and 50s that we've become used to. Did you hear that? Half. That was a month and a half ago, and I said half of what they used to. I said I could see them paying 20 or 30%. Heck, JEPY is already down to 37.5%. Just this last month. I don't want to be right about this stuff, and I don't take any joy in it, but I want the best informed subscribers on all of YouTube, even if that means delivering bad news occasionally. It'll go back up too. I'm not, who knows, we may not be in a bull market. I'm not saying we are, but it's getting pretty compressed. All right, guys, now we're going to join our regular program again. Thank you. So with the JP Morgan funds, these Defiance funds have a marketing problem. Every time the dividend goes down by a penny, you know, the haters put it out there that, oh, they've cut the dividend again. Well, no, they haven't. Volatility has gone down, and it's cut the dividend for them. The reason Defiance has a marketing problem compared to JP Morgan is because JP Morgan, you know, they only pay you 1%, so they usually collect like 2 or 3%. So, you know, so if volatility gets compressed and they go from collecting 2 or 3% to a 1.5%, well, they're still paying your percent, so they haven't cut the dividend yet. They don't appear to have cut the dividend. Now, the fund is earning less. All these funds earn less. There's nothing about the Defiance that makes them more risky at all. It's actually less risky, like I've said a million times, on the downside. But, you know, they have a marketing problem because it appears that they're cutting the dividend all the time, and it's just not so. Defiance charges a huge expense ratio. You know, 0.99 is huge. That's big. JP Morgan charges about half that, or maybe even a little less than half that. Okay. Well, but also, I wonder how much time Jay has to take out of his day to answer emails and questions from people that think he's cutting the dividend. I wouldn't be surprised if if they could justify charging a higher expense ratio, because these funds take a lot more to manage. And I'm not talking about the options, to manage customers' expectations. I mean, one of my subscribers wrote an email to Jay, and he's so nice. He answered it, and he said, "Merry Christmas." Jay's a very accessible type of guy, appears to be for me. But, you know, he takes time to answer people's questions about why the dividends are going down. My subscriber, probably because I was talking about it a bunch over Christmas, was talking about the NAV depletion and asking Jay about that. And Jay said, no, that has nothing to do with it. You know, it's just the volatility. Still, I thought it was great for Jay to take the time to do that. But I do bet that he wants to pull out his hair every day. You know, so I think that explains part of the lower expense ratios. Those other funds also, like I say, they also do worse. There's nothing special about them. They do worse. You just don't notice it because they aren't giving you the whole dividend. But it shows up at the end of the year in total return and everything else. Let's check out this Global X covered call report. I would think it'd be a good idea for anyone that's interested in studying this themselves to bookmark this page and go back and look at it. Because what these guys do is, yeah, they don't pay the whole dividend. They only give you about 1%. But you can go back and look, and you can see how much dividends they could have paid, and so you can see what the market for volatility was like. In 2020, it was crazy high. Look at that, 4.4%, 3%. Those are huge compared to 2019, where it was 1 and 2% all the time. 2019 is volatility compression. 2020 is volatility expansion. If you look to 2023 for these guys, their dividend's been cut too. They still pay you whatever they still pay you the 1%, but they aren't earning as much. And when people get their year-end statement for 2023, they're going to see it. Look at the end of 2023. We're back to volatility compression. 1.89, 2.4 is all right in June, but then 2.1, 2.5, 2.3, 2.8. And then 1.8 in November. And December was even less than that. I know I said that in an update yesterday, but I can't emphasize that enough. That's who's cutting the dividends. The market's cutting the dividend. The volatility that's available to us is cutting the dividend. Yeah, I could make a channel and go on there and be super clickbaity, and I would probably have a lot more subscribers if I talked about how bad these funds were and that I hated them and, oh my gosh, they've cut the dividend again. People would join up. There's more money in giving bad news than good news. It's the way the infrastructure of social networking works. It's a pay-per-click type, or it's a per-click business model. So you want to say the craziest, most brash stuff you can say. Like I say brash stuff myself sometimes, but I try to back it up with facts, and then when I get called on it or realize it was stupid, I try to come back and apologize for it. I'm not trying to do that for the sake of getting clicks. But yeah, I could definitely tell you guys what you want to hear, you know. But just like Dad couldn't sleep at night probably, even though he could have made more money if he would have taken on a bunch of clients that were trying to cut corners. You know, I could grow my site faster if I'd be willing to do stuff like that, but I'm just not. I'm looking at a recipe for long-term success for my site, but also for you guys in your investment portfolios. That's what's really important to me. I want you guys to succeed. And so the reason I mentioned the 20% and the 2/3 rule, those are kind of the similar deal. You know, they're both rules to try to design to keep the average person out of trouble. I know there's sophisticated people on here that are going over 20%, but they're also at the same time they're putting a collar on the market and they're locking out downside, and then they're taking their dividends probably. I've heard all this, and then putting them into smart investments like stock in Tesla. Some people are taking Tesla dividends and putting it into Tesla stock, and then at the same time they're also running a complex hedging strategy. Yeah, those kind of people, absolutely, they can probably do 50% and only have the same risk as someone doing 20%. I'm talking about your average Joe that doesn't want to sit there and grow old looking at the options table. I like to do that. I like to look at the options table and everything, but I'm trying to make my YouTube channel go to the largest amount of people. And of course, I get a phone call. Hey, Joe, how are you doing? Oh, not so bad. Okay, sorry about that. So now it'd be a good time to talk about who Joe is, since since I'm talking about my personal life in this video. Joe, I've mentioned it to a few people, but I work for a nonprofit. I work part-time for a nonprofit. And 8 months out of the year, it's easy peasy, and it requires very little work. I manage a social media, and I do all this merchandise and printing and any type of work related to advertising or marketing. I help Joe on. Joe's a great guy. He owns sober houses, but they're a nonprofit. He has 4 of them, and he really helps a lot of people out, people that have made bad decisions, or, and that's how I met Joe. I'm not going to say, but anyway, but no, he's a great guy. He's one of my best friends. So the thing about it is, though, he derives almost all his income from one day out of the year, and it's a huge charity golf tournament that he puts on. So 99% of my work happens March, April, and May, helping him put on this gigantic charity golf tournament. And so, especially as we get around April, I'll work 50, 60 hours in some weeks. So I'll still do my 3-time-a-day update on the Defiance funds, but there probably won't be as many original videos just during that time, because that's my first. He's a commitment that I've had for 5 years, and I really feel it's important to try to give back in some way. And anyway, that's what I do. And like I say, it's a great cause, and I'll put his information up there. Let's take a look at. I also do his website and just a little bit of everything, but that's one of his houses. Like I say, he has 4 of them now, or maybe 5. I can't keep up. He's growing so fast. This is the inside of one of his houses. It's very nice. They're very nice sober houses. That's Joe right there. Anyway, I'll repost this stuff, and you guys can look at his website if you want to. Here's the golf tournament. But he has a page on here about how, if you want to give back, how you can. And he's a great guy, and it's a labor of love. I enjoy doing it, but I will be pretty busy in April, especially. The tournament is April 22nd this year. But I'll keep you guys notified about all that, and I'll still get my work done here. There's room enough for, there's time enough in the day to get everything done. But back to what I was talking about. Okay, in my opinion, these darn Defiance funds, they have a marketing problem more so than a real problem. Every fund of this type, which is a covered call fund or a short put fund, has the same problem. When volatility goes down, they aren't able to pay as much dividends. These other funds get around the problem by just not giving you as much to start with, so you don't notice it. Like I say, I really believe that's kind of how Jay justifies the higher expense ratio. That's not all it is, but that's part of it. I mean, managing customers' expectations is a huge deal. When you're in financial planning, that's about 90% of it is managing customers' expectations. When I got in financial planning and wealth management, I pictured myself sitting in front of a computer, buying and selling options and option spreads and doing covered calls all day and stuff. That's about 1% of what you actually do. The other 99% is what we call hand-holding. And, in talking with customers, listening to their concerns, trying to give them suggestions and all that kind of stuff. And I believe that's the skill that I bring to this site. So that's what I'm trying to do with my YouTube channel. All right, so to get back on topic here, all these funds go down when there's a volatility event. When there's a volatility event, they also go up. I think the problem is, or it is a problem, I bet you as volatility keeps compressing, and we're going to look at chart of the compression right here. As volatility keeps compressing, there's probably going to be people that are like, damn, I can't take, this lower dividend, and they probably bail out of it. And guess what's going to happen? They'll probably bail out of it right about here, right before a big volatility event happens. 2020 was volatility expansion, and great time to be invested in these types of funds. 2021 was volatility compression, like we're having now. These multi-week just with barely a pullback. This chart pattern right here looks just like this chart pattern, pretty much. So, but then in 2022, we got volatility expansion again. Great time to have these funds. Yeah, the NAV went down, but they've all come back by now. So, but a great time to have these funds because they're collecting all this, extrinsic value and all this time premium. Time premium goes up with volatility. Then in 2023, well, we're back to compression. We got a little blip there in October, but you could see it wasn't enough to make the VIX go too high. It only went to 26. So that brings me back to my other topic. I'm not trying to rub this in or say it a million different ways, but if you only have 20% of your portfolio allocated in this and volatility gets compressed, you aren't going to be worried about it because you aren't going to get a margin call. And the other thing is, so if you only have 20%, it's not so much about only 20%. That means you have 80% in regular type growth assets, or that's the idea. Anyway, like your 401k at work. Well, during times of volatility compression, like 2018, 2019, 2021, and 2023, your regular assets do great. They're all on fire. So yeah, you aren't getting as high of a dividend, but guess what? You aren't even worried about it. It's just a blip on the radar. And so then with no margin call and you aren't worried about it, you don't sell out, because inevitably what happens when people sell out, they're going to sell out right before the volatility goes back up again. I think the market knows. It seems to know whenever I do something, because lots of times whatever I do was the exact wrong thing to do at the wrong time to do it. So anyway, I'm just saying having margin is just a way to exacerbate that problem, in my opinion. All right, let's see what else we have. Then I'm going to let you guys get out of here. I just want to make sure I covered all this. Yeah, modesty is a great quality in your professional and personal life. I mean, delayed gratification, all this stuff is true, but I also realize that not everyone has had the same advantages I've had. I've caught a lot of lucky breaks. The number one is my mom and dad and sister. They, that was a huge lucky break for me, and not so much money wise, but that too. But more, they just smothered me with love and understanding and life lessons. And I can't even tell you how good that's been to me. So I'm just trying to impart some of those things to you guys. Like I say, if I can't bring honesty to this side, I can't bring anything. I always call it a site. I guess it's a channel. But it's all about honesty, and it's about growing organically and doing things the right way. And delayed gratification. I'm hoping someday soon, especially now with these Defiance funds, and I have some other stuff cooking as well. I'm hoping that I'll end up there on Mesa Drive. I haven't given up on it. I'm still a young guy. I'm in good shape. I run 5 miles most days. You know, I'm hoping to live to 77 or 87. That's, you know, 20 or 30 years. So I'll still end up on Mesa Drive. I mean, I know I will. Or Sierra. I'll take either one of them. All right, guys. Well, thank you for listening to me ramble. I know this was a little bit different type of show than I usually have. But also, I want to say one more time, I really do. I'm not trying to offend anyone. And, you know, if you have more than 20% and you aren't putting 2/3 in, don't worry about what I think. You know, talk to your loved ones, talk to your wife, you know, make sure it's all right then. The people that are important in your life are your wife, kids, your financial planner. You know, those are the people that are important. Be honest with them and figure it out with them. Don't worry about what old Max Convexity says on the internet or what Retire on Dividend says or Ethan says. Don't worry about what any of us say, even though we're all great guys. You have to run your life in a manner that is comfortable for you and your family, and, you know, and honest with you and your family, and be honest with your financial planner also. And one other thing I said that was stupid the other day, and I wanted to apologize for it. I was in Discord talking to one of my favorite people in Discord. We kind of butt heads sometimes, but I really like him. I'm not going to mention his name. He's a great guy. We go back and forth in a very healthy way. But I was saying, and I was saying this because I've heard Retire on Dividend say this, and I agree with it. I was just saying if the funds don't make any money this month, I'd be fine with them not giving us a check and just keeping all the money to defend the NAV this 1 month. Then hopefully, you know, this is a 1 month blip and we'll get back to it next time. Well, I said that, and then he texted me. He said, you know, I pay bills with these, and I thought, well, yeah, how stupid was that of me to say it? Just because I don't pay bills with these, I'm trying to, you know, put my you know, the way I feel about it over on him. We all have different things going on, and I certainly wasn't trying to be that way, and I need to be more sensitive to other people's personal situations, and I intend to be. That's my New Year's resolution. So, and also one other thing, I I've been making some basic option videos. I've only got one so far, but after I get a couple of more videos and get some of this basic stuff out there in options, I am going to make a really good video on how to hedge these funds and how to hedge virtually all the downside risk out of them. And you don't have to be a nerd. I'm going to show you how to do it without being a nerd or without, you know, without having your nose in the option tables every day. I'm going to show you a simple and effective way to do it, and I'm really looking forward to it. So I don't want to just tell you, hey, you guys got to do this like I do it, because, you know, because I'm so smart and I've, you know, look at me or whatever. No, I want you guys to do it the way you do it. And if the way you do it's a little bit different, I'm going to think of strategies to help you do it that way, but without having any of the drawbacks we're talking about. So anyway, guys, I really appreciate this. I appreciate you guys listening to me this long. I hope you enjoyed the video. Get in the comments if I got anything wrong. Be sure to tell me, and we can discuss it. I'm on 5 Discords. You can find me on Discord, and you can hit me up there, and we can discuss stuff later. You know, I mean, I want to coach you guys all, you know, and if I need to have some one-on-one interaction with you guys in Discord or whatever, I've given a couple of people my phone number, and that's fine. I don't mind talking on the phone. I'm basically just like Dad used to be. I mean, you know, I want to help you guys in the best way I can, and I think that's the best way to make my channel the best it can be. All right, guys, that sound good? Well, let me say this, too, because I haven't said it yet. Like and subscribe if you don't mind, if you want to. And also, not financial advice at all. Check all this over with your financial planner. This is all for fun and entertainment. All right? All right, guys. You have a great day.